Hey, what's up, y'all? It's your boy Prof Troff, and we're back again with the entire story of Ben 10 Illustrated. This is part 2. Last time, it was dope as fuck. But it was the story that I knew from the first Ben 10, so now I want to see what happens next. This should be all stuff that I have no idea about. I mean, I still didn't know much about those fucking knights and plumber shit, but it is what it is.
This video will be the second in a 5-part series of an illustrated retelling of the entire history of Ben 10, from the classic series all the way to Omniverse. The information will be presented chronologically, so you will see all flashback and time travel shenanigans play out in the order they would have happened in the natural progression of the universe. By the end, you should be well versed in the legacy that is the hero of heroes. I'd love to hear reactions from both longtime fans and new beginners of the show, and see if they can follow along. Now, let's begin. As their summer adventures continue, the trio expand their capabilities. Max comes out of retirement and begins to re-familiarize himself with his old technology and weapons. Gwen takes an interest in magic after stealing a spellbook from one of their many reoccurring villains. And Ben soon discovered that there are more than 10 aliens in the Omnitrix, and becomes a natural at many fighting styles. Vilgax eventually emerges under a partnership with Kevin, who has now permanently damaged his body with the alien DNA from Ben's Omnitrix. Ben temporarily gains access to the master control of his Omnitrix. Ben seals them both away in the Null Void, an alternate dimension made to inhabit the galaxy's worst criminals. On Max's 60th birthday, Ben and Gwen are thrusted 20 years into the future by Gwendolyn, an adult version of Gwen, now a master of martial arts and magic. During this brief journey, Ben evaluates the arrogant and selfish behavior he develops as he matures into adulthood, and vows to make different choices as he grows. Ben and Gwen are returned to their time shortly after defeating
Ben 10,000?
future Vilgax. Xylene also arrives after she is accidentally unfrozen by a group of Inuits. She reveals to them that the Omnitrix was intended for Max, not Ben, but deems him worthy enough to keep it. At some point, Ben is yet again hurled into the future, this time only 6 years, during a chrono-randomization barrier error by 16-year-old Ben Tennyson. Ben then helps his future self and team defeat Ultimate Agrigor. More on that later. After this event, Ben is sent back to his own time and recalls this journey as a vague dream. Towards the end of the summer, the Omnitrix's self-destruction is accidentally turned on during a battle with one of Ben's reoccurring enemies, Dr. Animo. Ben is taken to space by Tetrax, an ex-bounty hunter turned vigilante, to help Ben find the creator of the Omnitrix.
This is Tetrax is that crystal guy, right? That we saw in the first couple of episodes.
Off the self-destruct, as the destruction's power will destroy the entire universe. Vilgax escapes the Null Void and trails them, intending to steal the Omnitrix once and for all, or force the creator to build him a new one. The gang finally meet Azimuth, who at first refuses to fix the Omnitrix as he believes the universe is doomed to destroy itself anyway. In a last effort to save the universe, Ben battles Vilgax and his army one final time without use of the Omnitrix. This inspires Azimuth to put his faith in Ben as the future hope of the universe, and fixes the Omnitrix, unlocking one of Ben's most powerful forms in the process. Azimuth keeps an eye on Ben from that point forward, but for now, still refuses to give him the master control. Meanwhile, back on Earth, the Highbreed begin seeding their plants for universal domination by planting sleeper agents and slowly integrating themselves into society. With summer vacation over, Ben and Gwen return to school. The disorientated dad of Azimuth soon visits and declares war on Ben after misinformation leads him to believe that Ben has killed Azimuth, and a Toku Star battle in the middle of Bellwood City causes miles of detrimental property damage. The city secretly enlists the help of various aliens to help rebuild Bellwood, with the aliens taking up camp below the surface. Over time, these camps would form a city of their own.
Cool.
A year passes, and Ben unlocks a new transformation named Feedback and quickly becomes addicted to using him. Meanwhile, in the Null Void, Kevin finds himself in a plumber-operated prison and meets Quarrel, a wise inmate with knowledge on Osmosians.
Wait, how did Kevin escape the infinite prison universe thing?
He helps Kevin learn to control his rage, which was the trigger of his initial mutation. The more energy an Osmosian absorbs, the more insane they become. To combat this, Kevin learns to absorb matter instead, creating a suit of armor with whatever material he touches. Quarrel helps Kevin escape by sacrificing his life at the hand of the prison warden, who has a deep hatred for criminals. This memory haunts him through his early teens. Still trapped in the Null Void, Kevin is found and recruited by Proctor Cervantes, leader of the Rooters, a special Black Ops division of the Plumbers. Cervantes was a corrupted scientist who frequently abducted children and performed experiments on them, attempting to create an army of superpowered beings that can assassinate a target known as
Kids show, by the way, what the fuck?
attempting to create an army of superpowered beings that can assassinate a target known as the oncoming storm. When he discovered Kevin, he thought of him as the key to achieving his dream, and uses Kevin's powers to experiment on himself and a new team of children, creating the Rooters. After a period of training, the Rooters are sent to Earth to execute Ben Tennyson, with the assault led by Kevin. During the battle, the assault fails, which highly upsets Proctor Cervantes, calling the Rooters project a failure. He wipes Kevin's mind of any memory of him, and does the same to the other Rooters, and lets them loose once again into the Null Void. With his new friend by his side, Kevin...
Yo, is it just me or is this shit dark as fuck? Like, this dude experimented on children, sent them to kill some fucking dude. They fail, so he's like, fuck, you guys are fucking failures, swipe their memories, back in prison you go.
With his new friend by his side, Kevin and Argent wander the Null Void. They eventually find a way out, and after a few scandals as traveling con artist partners, agree to go their separate ways. On Galvan Prime, Azimuth has moved back to his homeworld and becomes their first thinker. During the creation of the Galvanic Mechamorph, a species of sentient blobs of nanites that can possess and enhance machinery that live on Galvan Prime's moon, named Galvan B, one mechamorph was made incomplete, which corrupted both his biomass and his sanity. His name was Malware. Azimuth worked to develop a cure to stabilize him, but it was deemed a failure.
I love the names though. Malware is the bad one.
His name was
Makes
Malware.
sense, I guess.
Azimuth worked to develop a cure to stabilize him, but it was deemed a failure. Malware became hostile and attempted to cure himself by kidnapping Albedo, one of the assistants of Azimuth, forcing him to develop a cure. This only mutated and corrupted Malware further. Malware then planned to absorb the Omnitrix and use its power to perfect his form. He steals an incomplete blueprint from an altercation with Ben, and begins working on an Omnitrix duplicate with a spastic scientist known as Dr. Psychobos. The two realize that they are
With a what scientist?
known as Dr. Ben, and begins working on an Omnitrix duplicate with a spastic scientist known as
With a spastic scientist?
Omnitrix duplicate.
I must not be hearing that right.
Scientist known as Dr. Psychobos. The two realize that they are in need of DNA samples to program into their Omnitrix, and enlist the services of Kyber the Huntsman to collect samples from the predators of Ben's aliens. Malware then ambushes the Tennysons, and in an effort to crush Ben's spirit, rips feedback out of Ben's Omnitrix and vaporizes him, destroying Ben's ability to transform into him. Malware, Dr. Psychobos, and Kyber
Jesus.
then spend the next 5 years collecting DNA samples for what they will eventually call the Nematrix. Heartbroken by the loss of feedback, Ben eventually has the Omnitrix removed.
Interesting. I thought he could not remove it, even if he wanted to. That's pretty interesting. For the next 5 years they do this shit. Jesus Christ. Okay, that was really nice. I want to see what happens next. So, yeah, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time, everybody. Have a nice day.